Gavin, we're live.
Hello.
How are we today?
Very good. Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. First time on a podcast?
No, not the first. It's the first time in a studio doing one. A very swanky studio. Yeah, usually it's holding a phone. I did one for Eric's Fight Gear, and it was -7. And the whole, like, I'm holding my phone, and everyone on the comments was like, "Yeah, quite good content," but you can see how cold he is because it's like shaking.
What, were you outside or in the gym? Or
I was in the gym. Yeah, I just finished cleaning the gym, and I thought, get the logo, the 10th Planet logos in and stuff like that. Didn't like.
Yeah, that's the savage part of that gym. It's like whatever the weather outside is, it's like that inside.
Yeah, you know what? We spent a lot of the first build part doing lights, making it look really sexy. Didn't really think about the fact that you probably need heating. And now aircon because it's like a top floor, so the heat just rises.
Sure, but better than something that's a killer then.
Yeah, well,
it's good conditioning though, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's a good condition. Yeah, it's going to be our first proper summer. So we had like 22 degrees so far in May. And it was like, yeah, this could be a problem. But that's cool. We love it. Good sweaty sessions,
Exactly.
I see Brendan McCaffrey doing some sessions where he's like kicking puddles of sweat.
Yeah.
So I've got a feeling it's going to be
when me and Jim used to roll, it used to just be like, it was just like we're in a mud bath, really. Like, you couldn't grab hold of anything.
But that's what we were
That's the best way to be, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we were at 10th Planet London last night for Keith Gregorian's seminar, which was really good. And it finished a little earlier than we thought. And we're like, oh, damn, what's going to happen now? And they're just like, 5s and 1s on the clock, let's go. Mate, there's some monsters at 10th Planet London. Really, really good. Yeah, probably got 5 or 6 really good rounds in. But it was to the point where I had to go home and be like, right then, let's check these dudes out on Instagram, make sure they're purple belts. And so like, I got, there's some really good guys there, yeah. And that was the sign that was just sweat running off me, But yeah, it was good though. And then we went to a place and restaurant to meet my wife. And like me and one of the people I went with, just like sweaty sports gear, rash guards, and then there's like my wife and her friend, like all dolled up really nice. It's like, what's up?
Doing the John Donaher special rash guard for a special occasion.
That's what I thought. Yeah, it's like I'm at GSP's wedding.
Nice. Well, that's a good segue for you to introduce yourself. You can just look into that camera and tell us who you are.
Yeah, so my name's Gavin Stewart. I'm a brown belt in 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu under Mick Broster, who's Eddie Bravo's first UK black belt. I'm the owner of 10th Planet Banbury. Been training about, kind of lost count, but about 12 years. Jiu Jitsu purist. Was a striker before that, I'm getting on a bit long in the tooth. So back in the day, it was more kickboxing that people did. Went to an MMA gym, got my butt handed to me by the jiu-jitsu guys, and just fell in love with it. Been doing it ever since. And not the best grappler in the world. I certainly don't come onto these things and pretend that I'm a world beater, but I do love the sport, and hopefully pushing it in a good direction for UK 10th Planet and UK in general. We've got some good comps and some good things coming up, we hope. So we'll get into that later though.
Oh, brilliant. No, I mean, the first time I met you, the first time I heard of you was when I was training at a gym.
You've heard of me?
I've heard of you, matter of fact, actually. Yeah. And you were going to be brought in to do some special seminars, weren't you?
Oh yeah, the Blue Dragon stuff.
Yeah.
Rob's a cool guy. Yeah. So he signed me up for a year to come in and teach the 10th Planet warm-ups. So if you guys are familiar with the 10th Planet warm-ups, it's a system of 8 sort of warm-up flows, warm-up series, where because the big problem with jiu-jitsu in my mind, Eddie's mind, or the guy's minds is like there's so much to rep, there's so much to train, and obviously you got like when you work in the bag, whatever combination you're throwing, 1, 2, whatever. We need to do the same as jiu-jitsu competitors, but there's just so much to learn. So we've got these warm-up flows which are designed to sort of get your reps in. They're quite complicated though, as they've developed and evolved as time's gone on. They've become quite complicated. So Rob invited me in, and I was happy to do it. I love the squad, love the Blue Dragon guys. Can't stop doing that now. It's Banbury to Southampton's quite a jaunt.
Sure.
It's I don't mind doing it once in a while, but it got a bit too much. So, but still keep in touch with the guys, and Jim, and you mentioned Jim. Jim, good, really good dude. So, so it's kind of nice. Like it's that was how I first met you. Was one of those sessions, was it?
Yeah. So I first heard of you when those seminars were being filled, when people were being like signing up to come along to them.
Cool.
And then I first met you when I came and just recorded one of the sessions you were doing.
I remember. Yeah. Did we roll?
I don't think we did roll, no. We've never, I don't think, I wouldn't want to roll with you.
I
would want to roll with you, to be fair, but I've been out of practice so long, and I hadn't been doing it for very long up at that point. So it'd definitely be a learning curve for me, but it was cool watching someone of your level come in and watching how everyone else reacted to that, because obviously the level that Rob was at, he got you in for a reason, because you're teaching certain things to a higher level because you've just been doing it for longer, or
and my looks.
And the looks, exactly. And it was cool watching these people that got comfortable in what they were doing.
Yeah.
Then experience what is actually out there.
Yeah. That, and the warm-ups will do that to you. So the warm-ups will make you try bearing bowlers, all the reverse de la Riva stuff that people aren't normally, there's like two camps, I guess. There's people that go on YouTube and look for the most flashiest thing they can find because that's going to get clicks on Instagram. And then there's the fundamental people who are like, you know what, I'm going to master the fundamentals first and build my way up to that. I'd probably say camp 2 is probably the best way to go. But the warm-ups will get you, in my mind, if you master the warm-ups, and that's a long-term project to master the warm-ups, but you'll put up about level if you can master those warm-ups, but it's really easy. We have open mats before every session at Banbury, and I always say to people, just give 20 minutes of your open mat to this week's warm-up or this week's warm-up set. Just 20 minutes. That's all it takes. If you do that 3 times a week, 4 times a week, then you'll be golden.
It's a real different kind of warm-up because when people hear warm-up, they normally think of the connotations of that boring bit of stretching we do before any sport we do or anything
from
like that.
From a business owner's point of view, I get a lot of phone calls from newbies. Oh, I'm really interested in trying a sport. I've never trained it before. I'm looking at your timetable. It looks like the warm-ups class. That's probably the one to come to. I'm like, no, that's the most complicated session. So, and it's really interesting. Tuesdays and Thursday nights, we're lucky enough at Banbury that we've got a really good team around us. 40, 50 people on the mat, and the warm-ups class is usually around 12 to 15. And there's a reason why. Yeah, there's a reason why, because it's just so complicated. But I don't push them too much. I deliberately put them on a Friday night, so the people that want to go out and get drunk and do that. It's for the more. I wouldn't say, you can definitely do them from a beginner's point, but you have to stop at what we call the white belt wall, which is like, look, that's enough technique for one day. Okay. Just the first couple of moves. But that's a big problem as a coach, is trying to get people to do that, because you see all the cool stuff after that. And newbies are like...
So you're trying to get them to implement that before they move on.
Yeah, and there's a difference between, but I can do that white belt wall flow. I can do those 3 or 4 moves. But it's like, you can do them, but can you do them like perfectly or near enough to perfect that we're ready to do the next set,
Whenever I did any warm-ups, I'd think, I've got this now. And bearing in mind these warm-ups, it feels like you're doing a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah. That's how it felt like to me.
Yeah.
Then you start rolling them, and then you're like, I haven't got this, because they're like...
And it can be so demeter or what's the word I'm looking for? But it can really be off-putting, because you learn
it's humbling.
You learn it, and then you try it in your flow rolls or live rolls, and it falls apart. You get your guard patch, you get dust, or whatever happens to you, and you're like, oh man, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to go to top side. I'm going to smash pass top side control, hold the dude, and maybe get a Kimura, and that just ends up being your game forever. Yeah. Whereas, so you got to kind of be comfortable with the fact that you're going to get smashed, you're going to get passed, and then eventually it's starting to work, and then in comp you'll hit it. Nobody's out there hitting some of the natural athletes will, but I certainly don't go out to comps and just be like, I'm going to try a buggy choke in this comp, having never done it before. Boom, buggy choke. I mean, I can't do them. So I'm 5'8", so I can't do them.
I first heard about 10th Planet through, I'm sure a lot of people have, through Joe Rogan.
Yeah. If he wasn't already a millionaire, I would buy him a drink, because...
There you go, yeah.
I got a lot of phone calls and stuff because of the Rogan podcasts. Yeah, I mean, the biggest podcast in the world, right?
You can't...
one of the biggest audiences in the world. Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. And I was fascinated with jiu-jitsu before I even knew there was somewhere near to me that did it.
Okay.
Just by watching that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't go out of my way to watch videos on people practicing jiu-jitsu.
No.
It was almost enough for me just hearing how he recounted his experiences in jiu-jitsu. And it wasn't until I walked into somewhere that did it and got on the mat with someone that I really realised, wow, myself and then a lot of people out there have this false sense of security of what they're capable of.
I hear it all the time. It's a superpower. The thing I always say to the newbies coming in is like, jiu-jitsu is a superpower, but you got to earn it. You got to put the time in and the grind in. But it really is like, our women's only program is free of charge, because it's just that I try and get more women in, and then hopefully they progress and do the mixed classes, because there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't. I get it, the confidence thing. I can completely understand it. So the scariest thing, to be honest, is walking into a fight gym. But it can be intimidating. So if we can make it easy for people, but like some of those girls, like they are monsters. It makes me a little bit, not to get too kooky, but it makes me a sense of pride knowing that like those girls are safer out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And we had this conversation last night on the way down with one of my newest students. So he's been with us since January, Darian, and she's just like she's like, I've just fallen in love with this sport, and like I feel she's you know, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, but she's had some trouble in her past with, you know, with people being a bit rough, and she's like, I feel like I'd be safer. And I was like, dude, you're 5 months deep. You imagine in 2 years, imagine in 10 years, you know, when you're a black belt. So
well, there was do you ever meet Tyler? Is it Tyler down at Blue Dragon?
The little dude.
Yeah.
That dude tried to twist to me. Yeah. No. What did he do? He tried to. I can't remember what it was. It might have been a wrist lock. He tried to do something to me, and there was a funny quote because I think he was 14 years old at the time, and I was like, "You."
And he's training with people like 20 and above.
He's a monster. He was like, "Yeah, oh, that's it." He busted my lip open doing a pass, and I was like, "Right, that's it." I was like, "You're lucky I wouldn't twist to a 14-year-old," and then I did. I was like, "Of course I would." Yeah, he's such a cool dude. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he competed in one of the old tournaments that we used to run, and he cleaned up like
But that's a perfect example of what you were saying about someone that in any situation with no experience would. Okay, so like a woman versus a man, or a child versus a man, or whatever. There's a discrepancy in strength or whatever. That jiu-jitsu will take up that discrepancy in abundance, and you'll have more to deal with them as well.
Yeah, the thing I like to say to people is the technique will always win. If you're obviously size matters, you know, size matters. Obviously, the bigger you are, the stronger you are. There comes a point where that becomes a real issue. If you're one of these monsters, the technique will always win. It's when the big dudes get technical. That's when we got trouble with them. You know, some of the guys at our gym, they're getting really good, and they come in the gym. We got a power lifter, we call him Juicy Luke Neal, real good guy. He come in the gym and he's like. Matt, he's a bodybuilder. Been a bodybuilder since he was 12. You know, he started way too early and he's just jacked. And he said he came into this sport just getting tapped by all of the women's squad, and he's like, "What the hell?" He's at the point now. He just had his blue belt for me a couple of weeks ago, and he's at the point now where he's starting to get, you know, proficient with his jiu-jitsu. So now we're all in trouble because he's got the strength. He always had the strength, but now he's got some technique with it. So but it was lovely to see him get humbled, and he won't mind me saying this, I'm sure, but he's a self-proclaimed alpha male douche. Yeah, it's all bro science with that. He's a funny dude, but yeah, he said to me, he was like, you know what, though, say what you want about these muscles and this strength. I used to get choked out by all the girls, so you know, like now, luckily, he can handle himself.
One thing that I found with just a small group of people that I was rolling with is that they're a really cool group of people, because I feel it takes a certain type of person to go to their first time doing jiu-jitsu and then stay on, because it seems like they're comfortable with that humiliation and realizing that, wow, I am at such a deficit compared to everyone else, but I'm going to make that up. It's like it weeds out all those types of people you don't really want to be talking to.
Well, Eddie calls it a douchebag filter. That's one of
a good way of
his quotes. Yeah, and to be honest, like I'm not saying that these people are douchebags, but we used to train downstairs floor, and then upstairs was a powerlifting gym or a strongman gym. I'm not really sure what the term is, obviously. But they would come down to test themselves. You know that these dudes are like, and more power to them. Yeah, come down, have a roll. And it was always like, can I have a roll with you? Like, and I'd be like, yeah, you can definitely have a roll with me, but first I want you to have a roll with a white belt who I'm thinking of giving a blue belt to. Yeah. And you just watch these dudes get smashed, weaved into the mat, and then we'd roll, and I'd try and be a bit more respectful and, you know, just sweep after sweep to prove to them that the stuff works. But you never see them again because their ego just couldn't take that, or it would be, I want to sign up. You got like, there's two ways it goes. It's either I never want to feel like that helpless again. Like I went to 10th Planet London last night, and I was humbled by some of the guys there, you know, to the point where I went, like, I was a bit like, oh man, let's check these dudes out, make sure like might need to up my game a bit. But that humbling feeling, woke up this morning with just a new fire, like, okay, nice. Cool, like, you know, that was nice to feel like. And I think you've got two sorts of people. Maybe it's just as simple as the fight or flight. You feel that, you're like, well, I never want to feel that uncomfortable again, let's go. Or you're like, ooh, I need to be comfortable in that fire, I'm going to learn that. You know, it is a superpower. You know,
I mean, that carries on to something I wanted to ask you. With the place you're at now as brown belt.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, actually, explain the belt system. Is it black after brown?
Yeah. So it's only 5 belts in jiu-jitsu. Okay. 10th Planet, we don't do the stripes. The gi guys, they sort of, I think they have like 4 stripes on their belt, and then they'll get promoted. 10th Planet, it's a lot. I mean, in my opinion, in my experience, it's a lot harder to get belts. Right. There's no grading. There's no syllabus that you follow. There's no attendance card that we're stamping. Oh, you've been here for 3 months. Whack. There's a tag. And I don't understand the gi world. I'm not a part of the gi world. So everyone always thinks because I'm a 10th Planet person, I'm anti-gi. I'm not anti. I'm just nothing gi. I've done 3 months of gi in my life. I own a gi. The last time I wore it was when I went to a Mexican fancy dress party, dressed as Eddie Bravo. I just wore the gi pants. That's it. So 5 belts: white, blue, purple, brown, black. Anything purple and above is classed as advanced. So that it's lovely when you get your blue belt. It's a real nice feeling, but you're still kind of in that sort of like, I wouldn't say newbie. Average time's probably 2 years, 2-3 years maybe for blue. But then when you get that purple belt, that's when, in my opinion, you'll then advance. So they say like you shouldn't really coach below purple belt.
Okay. Which is,
an interesting segue because I started coaching as a blue belt. So
sure,
it's tough, and it's a tough stigma to hold because you kind of keep yourself back. What belt are you? Oh, blue belt. That's 10th planet though, know. So, and then black belt is obviously that's the top level. You got your second dans and your stuff like that after that, But yeah, there's no grading. You just, my purple belt, for instance, I was just rolling. My coach Mick, just in mid-roll, he was like, Gav, and just threw the belt at me, mid-roll, bounced off my head. I was just like, oh shit, I'm a purple belt. Messed up the rest of the rounds because I couldn't focus because I'm like, but yeah, they are like, it's my favourite part of the job, if I'm honest. Like, if this is a job, my favourite part of it is giving out belts. I love seeing the look on people's faces, and I like to try and surprise people. But it's quite hard because, if you go to a comp and you get that gold and you've been training 2-3 years, so it's got to be time for a blue, and purple as well. There's not that many surprises in purple because that's advanced. So
sure,
people like Brandon McCaffron, 10th Planet black belt in Decatur, he says you can become a blue belt by accident. You can just be training. Okay, cool. You're blue belt. You can't become a purple belt by accident. That's dedication. So, but yeah, like I got this tattoo here. It's like a 5-tiered. Sort of like Japanese temple, Japanese, I don't know. And then you got the white belt coloured in, blue belt coloured in, purple belt coloured in, brown belt coloured in, and then the black belt at the top, not coloured in, obviously. 10th Planet 10 on the door. And I showed that to Brandon, and he was like, "Dude, like that's a commitment. Not many people get that." And I'm like, "Oh well,
it's pretty sick.
Unless I get hurt, unless something happens to me, I'll get there because you just can't fail at things that you stop trying at, can you?"
So moving with that in mind, then black belt being your next sort of like clear step with progression. Once you hit black belt, what are you going to use to motivate yourself? I'm sure like your experience in that London Banbury gym, not Banbury, sorry, London 10th Planet gym would be one of those things to motivate you. But what else?
Like I said, you've got your second dan, but you are right because once you hit that black belt, it's the dans they just come. It'd be amazing to be a second dan black. That's like 2 black belts. But also that's like such a rare thing. Like it could happen. I'm not saying it won't happen, but for me, I'm trying not to sound cheesy, but like I'm getting more as I get older, and I definitely feel my age these days. I'm getting a lot more out of watching my guys get things. So nice. Again, to the women's squad, we've got a girl coming. She's only training 18 months, Laura, and she's on the borderline of starting to get super fights and Grapple Fest and Pantheon and Polaris and all these shows.
Some real weight behind it.
Yeah, I really look forward to taking my guys through that. And you got to try and keep them motivated, and you got to try and I think we've got a really good training vibe and experience in our gym now. So it's just letting the guys know like your potential is huge, and I get loads from that. And then there's the business side of things, like I have gone further than a man of my looks or intelligence should have ever gone. Like I'm not, and my jiu-jitsu ability as well. Like I'm not here like dogging on myself saying all stuff. I've won some stuff and I've had some good times in jiu-jitsu, but I'm not a world beater. Like make no mistake about it. Like I do like to think I've got an energetic mind for it. Maybe ADHD. I don't know. Something's going on, but I see a bright future for 10th Planet Banbury and 10th Planet UK, to be honest. And if I can be involved in that in any way, I'm far from. I'm a brown belt. Like I'm lower level 10th Planet Moonhead status. If it wasn't for Mick Broster, like he's the man. But I've also got a long time left, hopefully, in this sport. So. So I just want to keep driving forward, and I think that's the motivation. To be honest, I'm not really that motivated to become a black belt. I really want to be one day. But I'm so far from that position. I've been a brown belt for 2.5 years, 3 years maybe, and believe it or not, that's not long enough. It sounds like it's in any. Is
there an average length?
I think the average length in the UK is 5.5 inches. That's what I tell myself anyway. Not really. I mean, you would say probably 10 to 12 years is about right.
Which really? From brown to black?
No, from white to black.
Oh, okay.
But then I used to play music a lot as well, so I'd go off on tour, and like my gap between blue belt and purple belt was 6.5 years.
Really?
So that was really long, and I did get to the point where I was a bit disheartened, and I respect my coach's decision to give me a belt whenever he says I'm ready, and I don't want one from anybody else. I want my belts to come from my coach when he thinks he's ready, and he's a tough guy to impress. So it's when Mick gives you a belt, you're like, okay, well, even if you don't feel like it, and some days you don't, you're like, well, he thinks I am, and that's the person that matters. So yes, although I'm at that stage of 12 years, it wouldn't be unheard of. Like I think Gio Martinez got his in under 4 years,
Really,
but he's a lot, he's a savage. That guy is, so average, I'd say 10 to 12 years. So, but then. I had a bit of time off to play music and stuff like that. So it's all, but I'll say you don't really focus on the belts in jiu-jitsu. You certainly do for blue when you're young and I really want my blue belt. And then
you've got something to prove when you're a white belt.
Yeah. And after purple, like I said, I got my purple in 6.5, and then I got my brown 18 months after that, which is, so the gap there is really low. So some people, mentioning no names, would say like, oh, you got your brown belt too early. That's not cool. And it's like, but what they're not realizing is, I was a purple belt for 6.5 years.
Yeah.
So like, you are right, but I was probably, hopefully, halfway to my brown belt, while I was a purple belt, while I was a blue belt. Sorry. So yeah, you just, it's your own journey. You do your thing.
Yeah,
but like,
you're enjoying the journey instead of focusing on that end goal.
Yeah, and I got like, I don't think I'm ready for a black belt. I don't think you ever would. And it's like a black belt said to me once, like, yeah, you don't really want it, because it's like there's a lot. Is it like when pressure.
UFC fighters say they don't want the championship belt because now everyone's coming after you?
Yeah, well, people come after you anyway. I tell you. But after purple belt, like hungry blue belts, that was like Marvin Castell said to me. I was driving him back from Birmingham to Banbury for a seminar. He said to me, "Well done on your purple belt. You're now hunted. The blue belts will come after you." And they did, and they still do, to be honest. But
I suppose that's like it's a vicious cycle, but a good cycle to keep improving your game.
Yeah, that's it. It's funny though, you get, as you get older, last night at London, on the car ride home, it was a bit like, wow, man, those guys, I didn't get chewed up or anything, but there was some good time. Jamie Scott was brilliant, and his brother was really good, and it's just like, you're like, damn, I should I done this different? Should I done that? Oh, it's okay because you got a bad wrist. Oh, and it's all right because your biceps detached. Don't worry, don't. You're 40 years old. Don't worry. And you start making these excuses, and it's like, no, dude. Like, did you have fun? Yeah. Do you feel fired up? Yeah. That's jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu's cool. You got to get comfortable. All this talk of the no ego in jiu-jitsu. That's nonsense. Of course, you wouldn't be doing it if there was no ego. We'd be sat on the couch watching, I don't know, Big Brother or Made in Chelsea or some crap like that. But we do have ego. That's why you go up to the gym. It's just whether it runs you or not. And I like to think most of the time my ego doesn't run me, but of course sometimes it gets the better of you.
I don't think you'd be able to be successful. Well, if you're an extreme case where you are thrashing everyone, then your ego could take you the whole way. But I feel like for the average person in jiu-jitsu, if you're controlled by your ego, you're not going to last long.
It can be a hindrance if you come out dominating white to blue belt and you crush everybody, and then all of a sudden you jump up and you get that purple belt, and then the guys in that division, those divisions are a bit tougher. You can be like, oh, I'm beatable. It's not going to be this cruise that I thought it was going to be. A lot of the top level guys that I meet, speaking to Keith Gregorian about this last night, or he was mentioning it to the room, they say, I didn't really win anything until purple, and then at purple I started to get my groove and started to work it out. So I think it can be a bit of a hindrance. Same as being like, we talk about being big, being massive, being a big strong alpha male can be a bit of a hindrance, because your whole life, all you've done is just hold people down, get your own way, and do whatever you want to do. In a jiu-jitsu gym, your ego can not enjoy the fact that you're getting tuned up by little computer nerds who can just they look like 70 kilo, 60 kilo dorks, and they're just chewing your legs up. That can be tough to take,
I feel like jiu-jitsu has a lot of parallels just to everyday life.
Oh, dude, people say there's a meme that goes around. I don't know who the Instagram page is. It might be like white belt memes or something like that. I share them all the time, and they're not really aimed at like the experienced jiu-jitsu guys. It's more the newbies. But it's like, one of them is, will you ever use jiu-jitsu in real life? Like martial artists, Krav Maga guys say all the time, I'm gonna teach you how to disarm an AK-47. Like, cheers, dude. Like, never seen one, don't know what one is, but okay. But like jiu-jitsu, like, you'll use the skills up here every day, like, just just powers of deduction and just the way you look at things. It's that cliche about it. It's just like chess, but I kind of see
like your journey to black belt is a perfect example, because if you're focusing on that black belt, you'd probably be thinking of all these reasons why you should have it already, and they will put you down. Whereas you're not. You're focusing on the journey, which allows you to enjoy it. And then when the black belt does come, it's like
and it'll just be like if my black belt came this week, I'd be like, oh, I don't know about this. No. So it's you're right. And to be honest, if you don't really think I get asked more by other people, when do you think it's going to be? When do you think it's got to be soon? I'm like, no, dude, what are you talking about? Like, not at all. But same time, it's going to be cool when it happens. I'll be a double black belt. I got a Taekwondo black belt as well.
Have you?
The real power.
All right, let's take it back to the start then. Let's take it back to the start.
Oh yeah.
What got you into jiu-jitsu?
So a buddy of mine, Joel Marriott, nicest dude in the world, wanted to try Lao Gar Kung Fu.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude.
Is that one of those serious ones, or is that?
It is. It was a Lao Gar Kung Fu school / kickboxing school.
Okay.
So remember, this is 25 years ago. So, and I'm like, dude, I'm not really into this stuff. I wasn't really a UFC guy. Well, not that UFC was really around then. And I was like, oh, all right, I'll go with you. But if I don't like it, I'll do one free class. And if I don't like it, dude, please don't expect me to come back. Okay, cool. So we went, and I was like, you know what? It was actually pretty good. So I signed up, went back. That school. So basically, we saw the two instructors placing a bet on an attractive young girl who come in. They place some money in a cap, and we're like, what are you dudes doing? They're like, first coach to bang the girl gets the cash. So meet this dude. He's like I say, he's a good dude. We were like, I don't really want to train in a gym that's got that kind of stuff. Not to be too douchey about it, but they weren't that great, and we were like, I'm not really interested in that. So we joined the biggest school we could find. Our thought was the big, reputation, clean school. Let's go there. So we joined the TAGB. So that's ITF Taekwondo. So it's as close to kickboxing as you can get. It is point scoring. Again, remember, this is back then. And I'm not dogging on point scoring martial arts. They are great sports, brilliant sports, but just, and then from there, MMA started to blow up. I got into the UFC, started to watch all that. And I thought, what? I'm going to go to this place in Redditch where I grew up. Titans. It was a Thai boxing gym, but it was Titans MMA. A buddy of mine, James Whiston, who you might know who went on to become 10th Planet Redditch owner. So we're still very, very close, me and James. We're gyms under Mick, so the three of us are we call ourselves the Peaky Blinders because we're from Birmingham, or near enough to Birmingham. So I went to that school, and I was like, I remember the messaging the dude, and it's such a douchebag thing now. I was like, dude, just so you know, I'm British Taekwondo champion. I won all these medals, a black belt. I'm gonna be cool. Like striking wise, I'm all right. I just need to learn some wrestling and some jiu-jitsu. And I went to the school and just got my ass handed to me. Whether or not it was planned, I really don't think it was. And these dudes were just taking me down at will and just subbing me with things that I didn't know existed. And from that moment, I was hooked. And I fought MMA for a little bit. We did some like back then it wasn't really semi-pro. It was more like into clubs and stuff like that. So we did a lot of the sprawl and brawl stuff and the into clubs, and it was fun. But it was always like, how long will it take for me to get this to the ground where I can do jiu-jitsu, which is what I really wanted to do. Sure. And then one day somebody just said, you could just do jiu-jitsu. You don't have to do the striking stuff. And I was like, oh, damn, you're right. And then from then on, that was it. I just fell in love with it. I don't really focus on it. I help coach the MMA guys, but it's always like jiu-jitsu for MMA or grappling for MMA and stuff like that. I don't really have anything to do with the striking. That's Chris Mee, Striking Clinic. He does all that for us. What was really interesting was the reaction of the TAGB to me wanting to do MMA. They were like, "Oh, we didn't realize you were a football hooligan. We didn't realize you were a street thug." And I was like, "No, this is a martial art. This is a legit martial art." I mean, we're talking years ago before MMA had really cleaned its reputation up. But still, and they ended up. You have to hand your notice in when you're a black belt at these schools. I ended up having to leave because I was doing MMA, and I was just like,
"It's a shame, really, isn't it?" Because I mean, in my eyes, you can always learn from everyone around you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't really know. I've seen Taekwondo competitions. I've seen a few, like the point scoring ones.
They're good fun.
And I don't know if you can carry anything over from MMA into that sort of stuff. Maybe positioning. I'm not sure.
Well, timing, definitely. Like things like spinning back kicks, they're still quite useful. Especially if you're like me and all you wanted from your MMA, not that I know anything about MMA, but all I wanted was it on the ground. So I don't mind throwing spinning stuff, telegraphed spinning stuff so they take you down, and it's like, cool, now we're where I wanted to be all along. So, so a few things, come over, but not much. You know, if I could go back in time, I would definitely skip that part and just go straight into that moment where we left the Moseley, whatever it was, club. I wouldn't do that. I'd just go straight to jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
I'd be 4 or 5 years ahead of where I am now.
So was there any route into martial arts being a profession other than training at that time when you were doing it?
I really always really was really inspired by Eddie Bravo's approach to things. I was a conspiracy theorist before I was a 10th Planet guy. It's worth noting that, because that's the one thing that drives me crazy is people think that I'm a conspiracy nut, which I definitely am, and I use the word nut as well. I'm into that just because of 10th Planet, and it's the other way around. I was into this stuff way before I realised Eddie was, but I just really loved Eddie's approach to coaching. Really like the way he projects in his class. And if you ever see me coach, you have seen me coach, I'm just a very watered down version of Eddie, or even the hand motions. I watch so much MTS, which is Eddie's instructionally releases, that I can't help doing the same mannerisms. You know that you are, you mimic people that you
pick up from the people you surround yourself with.
And you know. So I always found Eddie's approach to everything really, really digestible in terms of training. So that was what really made me think, I'd love to do this as a job. Just seeing some, and I was just lucky, I started coaching because of a chap called Stuart Davies in Banbury. He's a ref and a ex-pro fighter, and he needed a grappling coach. And I'd moved to the area with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. She was from Reigate, I was from Birmingham, and we just put a pin in a map, and we're like, well, guess Bicester, Banbury will do. And then Mick messaged me saying, Stu's down there, and I think he's looking for some help with his grappling. So just for free membership, I went down there, and I thought I was just going to help out. That was the term. Do you want to help out with the jiu-jitsu? Yeah. And then it was like Wednesday came along, and it was like, what are we doing tonight? I was like, huh? Okay. So then we just, from there, I just coached on. And although I don't work with Stu anymore, credit where credit's due, he gave me a platform, really sort of fell in love with coaching, and started to, and again, back to playing in a band and learning how to be on stage. I think that really helps with my coaching, because the way it can come across, and you asked me, have you ever done a podcast before? And I've done loads of really awkward interviews from mute. We've had to play acoustic guitars and stuff in front of people. Really cringy stuff when I think about it. So this is cool. This is just a chat, But yeah, so he get there's certainly no beef, but I run a gym in Banbury, he runs a gym in Banbury. There's been a little, when I left, it wasn't particularly pleasant, and I appreciate the concern, but it was like 10th Planet Banbury was coaching out of a Thai boxing gym, and it really felt that way. I wanted 10th Planet Banbury to be in a jiu-jitsu gym.
Sure.
So the 2 floors that we've got now with Chris Me works really well, because the strikers are down in their little cupboard, you stay in there, get in your box, you strikers. The jiu-jitsu guys are upstairs. You're not allowed upstairs. It's for the big boys. And he'll kill me for saying that. But yeah, it works really well. And to be fair, me and Chris Me go way back, and we've always been close. And it was me, Chris, and Stu that originally started this other gym. And things change and people go to separate ways. So, but it's there's plenty of meat around for everybody. And there's 2 very different styles of training in there's a few gyms in Banbury, and they're all different styles. So there's plenty of meat for everybody. You don't need to be at war with each other. You don't need to have this stuff. You can just exist, and they can exist.
Like you say, different styles. Just the styles I've seen from the people that I've seen on just online. Like you've got. Yeah. The sort of style that Danaher teaches, which is
completely different,
extremely, it seems like fundamental, but then really paying attention to what your opponent is and
so
what they're capable of.
I really love the DDS stuff, but it's I have to be in the right mood to watch their instructionals. I have to be some days you wake up and you're like, you know what, I'm in a tech mood today. I want to absorb. Then I'll put on a Danaher instructional. Some days I can't listen to my brain's maybe I've had overload of jiu-jitsu and I'm just I can't listen to that today. I need some fast 1 minute jiu-jitsu hack. That's my day's work for today, But yeah, all these different styles, and I think they're all gold. 10th Planet is its own style. We're our own style. We're no gi. We've been no gi since the start. We're a clinch based system and using overhooks and underhooks.
I was going to say that I don't feel like 10th Planet would have been created if Eddie Bravo wasn't such a conspiracist himself, because he almost had conspiracy theories on the sort of bread and butter jiu-jitsu components. Am I right in saying?
Attempted
to break those down and create new ones.
I'm not even sure that he was a conspiracy theorist when when it was created.
Oh, okay.
He might have been.
Okay.
From what I can gather, he's very much into UFOs and ufology. Sure. Same as me. I was the same. And then you go down this big rabbit hole of the conspiracy world, and eventually the UFO stuff kind of comes away, and you go in a different direction. That's another. Don't get me started on conspiracies. We'll be.
I'd happily get you started.
This will be like the Alex Jones Rogan podcast. It will be removed. Yeah, but maybe. And I'm just guessing here. It's a problem with authority or not liking to be told what to think or do. That's always been my thing. My wife says to me, "You've got heart of gold, but you're unmanageable," which is really true, and I agree, because I've my fault completely, but this was supposed to happen a few weeks ago and things get moved, and the way you reacted to that was just like, no worries, dude, like, we'll sort it out another time. That goes a long way, mate. With you, if you were like, dude, this is unacceptable, I demand that it wouldn't have happened, because I'd be like, nope. And like, even if it's something that I need to do, if somebody like puts a finger on my face, there's a very few people on this planet that'll tell me what to do, not in a douchebag way, but in a I can't help it. Like, if you try and like tell me what to do, I don't know where it comes from. But if you ask me to do something, I'll do anything for anybody, within reason. My wife's got it down to a T. She knows how to. She's like, "Oh, I really need you to do this." Of course, sweetheart, anything you want to do. But if she was like, "Do this," I'd be like, "Nope." Even if I was going to do it anyway, I'd be like, "Nope." So maybe it's a bit of that, and then obviously the traditional jiu-jitsu way, the gi, and the way the thing you always hear from more traditional guys who come to train at 10th Planet is, man, the vibe in here, like this. This is like unreal. We have music blasting, and it's it really is one of the things that makes me the most proud. Is after we've rolled, I just like to just sit back while everyone's getting their drink, and the chatter, and it sounds like a club with the music off, just. And I'm like, damn, this is what I had in mind.
It feels, it's just so fun. Like, it must be the 10th Planet vibe that carries over to each gym, because even though
it looks like it,
Blue Dragon wasn't a 10th Planet gym, like Rob got his training style from the 10th Planet sort of syllabus type of
This
thing.
was one of the reasons why I was happy to work with Rob.
Yeah.
It was a long drive. It was a pain in the butt. I liked his guys, but it was that vibe. Like, I'm not, again, I'm not too. I get asked to go and coach one day a week here, one day a week in there. But if the vibe's not right, well, I've got a good friend of mine who's a photographer. His stuff is on Instagram, Jaguar. Check him out. Really, really good. Man, you probably appreciate it being a photographer yourself.
What type of stuff does he do?
I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know anything about photography. But sure. His approach to it, in my dumbass mind, is he doesn't have nothing posy. He tries to catch moments. So it's like people going down escalators and stuff. You wouldn't think there would be a picture there, and it's just so good. And he does some stuff for the gym as well and some stuff. So at Jaguar, if you want to check him out. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the vibe and why you said yes to going to Blue Dragon, because the vibe was there.
So he says the same with his photography.
Okay.
He's been asked to do a few things which are fairly good opportunities, but he's like, no, the vibe's not right, and if the vibe's not right, the art won't be right. So and it is, there is a part of this that's art. This is art. We are, if you want to go down that route. I know there's a lot of old school guys are like, no, we're steel sharpening steel. Sure. And that's a cool approach to have, but it's not the approach I've ever had.
I'd say it's a very creative approach, what 10th Planet has.
Yeah. Very like innovative, right? Like, find my guys all the time, purple belt and above, we do what we call the lab. We call them lab, leg lock labs, rubber guard labs. And we'll just sit there and like, some of the stuff they come up with is like, I'm like, damn, that's going to work. Why has nobody thought of this? And it's so good. Like, I had a white belt the other day, Brad, his name is. And he's just like, he calls it a shamanic, I can't say it, so I call it a shawarma necktie. That's not the real name for it. Shamanic necktie, I think he calls it. And I'm looking at it, it's basically the dude, for the people who understand the terminology, I'm sorry if you don't, is it's twister side control, and the battle in twister side control is they're trying to push your hips off their shoulder, play with there, and he just hit this like shawarma necktie. And I was like, that's going to work. I was like, see if you can hit that. If you hit that in rolling constantly, hit it in a comp, that's yours. That's your move. But that's what we get. That's what you get in 10th Planet. Whereas a lot of other gyms, I'm wrong with this, a lot of other gyms, there's a syllabus. You learn the damn syllabus. Don't you dare deviate from the syllabus. I remember watching a clip of an instructor blowing his student's knee out. The student dared use lockdown, a half guard position, and so it's where you trap one leg. And if you don't control the body and the person sits up and clears the knee line, there's like a nasty little leg lock in there. And in front of the whole class, to demonstrate why we don't use lockdown in this gym, this instructor just stands up and just keeps sitting down, just bang, bang, just cranking his leg. I'm like, dude, what an ass. If that guy's listening, what an asshole. Don't know if you can swear, sorry.
You can say whatever.
Bleep it out. But like, dude, like, and that's like a guy not defending himself either, not even a live roll, a demonstration in front of the class, like really not cool. And what kind of a coach is that? Like, let your students figure it out. Like, you've got to help people, obviously, steer them the way they want to go, but let your dudes figure it out.
It's, what I was getting at with drawing back to the vibe in 10th Planet gyms is that for me as well, I can't be creative if the vibe's off, because my energy is going towards sort of perceiving what's around me, because it's not somewhere I can just completely relax in.
Yeah.
Whereas the gyms that I've been to, which have been under 10th Planet, or some affiliation to it, really just let my guard down. Yeah. And I've never had a workout that was so intense but didn't feel like a workout.
I hear that all the time. Yeah.
It was just like I felt like a kid again, going out to play football, just having a kick about my mates. It was just fun.
Well, that's it. That's the trick. All this I say about after the rolls, everyone's chatting and vibing. Those dudes have just done a sprint or a marathon or a weightlifting circuit or however you want to look at it. They've just done 20 minutes of cardio and they're just buzzing. Like what, I try and do 20 minutes of cardio. Forget that. But I'll roll till I'm blue in the face.
100%. I'd second that. That.
Yeah, you're right. It's different for you. You get much training in yourself these days?
I've literally just joined a gym again, a normal gym. When I started doing this, I packed everything up because I just wanted to minimise my expenses.
Yeah, gotta do. Life gets in the way.
The same concept as the more I worry, the less creative I can be. So I was like, I'd rather just put all the worries aside and just move forward at the pace that I'm comfortable at to build a solid foundation.
I went from coaching 3 days a week and then 4 days we added a Friday morning. And then I had a career and a job and all this other stuff and then just parked all that. And so I'm going to do this full time, see how it goes. And now we're like 7 days a week, multiple time. But it's my job.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, because I had a little look on your LinkedIn.
And I haven't been on that for a while.
And you started this a year and like 10 months ago or something like that.
Yeah. Independently.
So that was independently.
So that was when I left the old gym. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I really like to try and highlight what people did before they did the quite interesting thing, or the thing that they love doing now.
I wouldn't say interesting.
Well, because I feel like a lot of people are in the position that you may have used to be in. Yeah. And don't know and feel like they can't change that, or that's their life for the rest of their life now.
Yeah, I'm from a generation which was like you had to have a trade. The thing I always remember people saying to me, you need a trade. So believe it or not, I'm a car mechanic by trade and did that for about 9 years, something like that. And then really didn't enjoy it. It definitely wasn't what I was put on this planet to do, but needed money, got to pay the bills, right? So I became what's called a fleet controller. So you're managing spend and it is as boring as it sounds. And I'm doing this, and it's not a bad wage, it's not a bad career. I'm climbing the ladder and doing the thing. But again, I got this real problem with authority, and I don't like. I'm just never going to be happy doing this. And I'm lucky enough to marry my wife, who is really career driven. And because of that, we had a child on the way, and we come to this sort of conclusion. We're like, well, I'm coaching on the side, and I think the thing is, if I could give people some advice in terms of like trying to find a job you love, is whatever your passion is, that's the trick, is finding out what it is that you want to do, and then start it as a side hustle and keep going and grinding until the side hustle overtakes your actual job, and then bin that off. There'll be a point where you've got to take the jump and you've got to take the risk. And for me, I got to that point we'd had the conversation with my wife. Look, you want to go back to work a bit earlier? I wouldn't mind doing the gym full time, which would then mean I could like look after the children in the day, do the school runs, do all those bits, but still coach. So she was like, yeah, cool, let's try that. And it was like, I hated the term stay-at-home dad. I'm not a stay-at-home dad. I've never been a stay-at-home dad. I just work in the evenings and weekends. That's all it, So I really didn't like it when people were like, oh, how are you finding being a stay-at-home dad? It's like, oh, man. I don't mind so much now because it speaks for itself. But yeah, there was that point when you had to make the jump, and this was during coronavirus lockdowns when gyms were closed.
So you made the jump during COVID then?
Yeah, what an idiot, right? What an idiot.
I mean, that's sort
in
of
for a penny, in for a pound.
You really are jumping in the deep end there.
Dude, it's a real tragic story. If you want this podcast to go in a bit of a sadder direction, I can certainly tell you the story.
I mean, whatever has meaning to you, I want to hear.
Okay, cool. So, so I made the decision to probably go off on my own. I hadn't spoke to the gym that I was coaching at the time, but I'm like, I'm just doing the numbers, and we're 10th Planet, so I've got a lot of members that are 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu members, but they sign up through the gym I was coaching at the time. And no problem, that was the deal I signed. No hard feelings on that at all. That's what we did. But there was always this point where I'm like, well, I'm not stupid. I can see what we're bringing in and what I'm getting out. It doesn't mathematically make sense, so there was some conversations that should have had that didn't happen. So the obvious conclusion to that, the only way that's going to go is I'll go off on my own. And that's a scary thing to do, and it's hard to do, but I managed to find a place that we could rent very cheap. And it was a Hermes delivery depot that had some mats, and they had like a martial arts program anyway. And the dude's like, the only thing you have to do is pull the cages out on the night, put your mats down, and then bring the cages back in when you're finished. It was so... To go from a lovely big gym with all these things in it to that was like, oh, what a step down. But it wasn't a step down. It was a step up because we were building to what we've got now, which is like, in my opinion, a really nice facility to train at.
If anyone hasn't seen your facility, just a second, it's fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, check us out on Instagram at 10th Planet Banbury or online, 10thplanetbanbury.com. I'm not finished building yet, though. Still a few things, I'm one of these people, always got my sight. But yeah, so I made this decision. I'm just about to pull the trigger on it and speak to Stu. We're in lockdown, the first lockdown, but I've managed to get what's called an elite exemption, so we could still train kind of, and so we could still do some stuff. And it didn't need the overheads. The benefit of doing it this way was the overheads were so small that I just needed a little bit of cash just to keep us going. That was, it's not like that anymore, of course, but that was the plan. And then the worst thing in the world happened, the worst experience of my life so far. My son had a brain hemorrhage, and it was still to this day undiagnosed. No one really knows what happened. He woke up, said he had a headache, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. And I just thought he was trying to get into our beds. He liked to sleep in bed with mum and dad. And then he was throwing up and stuff, and really weird, just different. As a parent, when it's different, and it was different. And I'm coaching downstairs in my home studio during coronavirus. I was doing some privates out there. We're allowed to. And my wife comes out, she's like, look, something's not right. So I had to cancel on a guy, just signed up with us again, actually, Lee, sound guy. And I was like, really sorry, you've drove all the way up here from Southampton. I can't do this, like my son's not very well. And we were like, it's weird. So I sent an ambulance like they do, and they were like, something's not right here. And it ended up being a brain hemorrhage. I had to spend two and a bit weeks at the John Radcliffe Hotel in a neurological children's ward. If you want to test yourself, test your mental strength, spend 2 weeks on a children's neurological ward. That's the things I've seen and the noises I've heard. Whoa, horrible. Luckily, he was okay. We think it's a couple of scans. The worst thing is not knowing. You don't know why. But I'm trying to start this gym, and all this stuff has been building to this moment of disclosure and then releasing it to the world. And then that happened, and it really knocked me for 6. And then from that, I developed. I don't know what the stages are, but level 3 PTSD, which was because of the time. And they said you would. It's like you can't see that kind of stuff and not feel.
And that was from the...
That's from being around that and seeing that. And then because of coronavirus, I couldn't go to his scans with him and stuff like that. It was a real dark time for me. And I don't mind talking about it because I think people struggle with things, and it's good to know that, other people have been there, and, anybody that's been in that situation, I feel like there's a kinship between parents that have seen this sort of stuff. And I'm just blessed that he's okay and everything worked out okay. But
he's doing okay now?
Yeah, so far so we still got a couple of scans we need to do just to see what happened. And that's the worst bit, is not knowing why. But yeah, we'll find out. And he's a gift. He's good as gold. He's so funny. He's such a cool dude. He trains now as well. He's a right little dude. But yeah, it was a real test, to certainly... starting your own business, making the jump, quitting the job that you've done for years with that steady income, and then on top of it, coronavirus plus that, it was dark. So when you've been that low, if anything, you're willing to take more risks because you're like, well, it's never going to be that bad again. So every day is a gift, every day is like, I get to do things like this. And last night at London, it's like, this is so cool. I get to live this life as a career, and most importantly, my family's okay.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, it kind of really give me a perspective on what you're like. Oh, should you take this jump? Yes, you should, because this is.
You never know what's around the corner.
Exactly, that is so true. Things can change like that. So if people are out there thinking like, oh, I've got this side hustle, is it time to take the jump? Just bloody do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? Exactly, it ain't going to be as bad as that. Well,
I mean, and even if you do fail, just go back to the job you're already at.
That's it. Yeah, there's always another way. Find something you love, and the money will find its way to you. You know, I've never been money driven. There's Nike Air Max are from a place called Wellesbourne Market. They're fake. They're not real. They're old and tatty. I spend most of my life in slides. It's only because it's raining today that I'm not wearing slides.
Fair enough.
I dress like I live in California. I live in a place called Brackley in Northamptonshire.
I mean, the same concept, finding something that you love doing, is the same concept that you applied to going towards your black belt.
Yeah, that's it. It's that the black belt is just a part of the journey. And
exactly.
And I'm there when I'm there. Like, it's going to happen one day because I'm not going to stop. And after it happens, I'm not going to stop. Big thing you get with jiu-jitsu is people quit after their blue belt. They get their blue belt and they stop training. And I'm like, I'm like, why? You've just got to the point where you're starting to understand it. Because the first few months of jiu-jitsu are rough. You're walking into a gym every day, getting tuned up, not hurt, but tuned up. And you don't know what's going on. And then you start to understand position. So you get to a good position and then you're like, I don't know what to do when I get here. And then you get your blue belt, you start to understand that. And then you leave. But I think because the belts are so hard to get, they call it blue belt blues, because the belts are so hard to get. Once you get there, you're like, that's it. The purple belt is now so far away. You're like,
sure,
forget it.
What was it difficult to get back on track in that dark time with your son regarding in terms of the gym?
No,
was it something you were.
You know what? The gym and the team, I'll be forever grateful for, because they got me through it because it was lockdown, so I couldn't like share the hospital responsibilities with my wife. I think if you had family, then like you could pin this responsibility on each other and just sort of get a little break here and there. It would have been easier. But because you couldn't, it was just me in that, and then like 6 o'clock, these children go to sleep, or like there was a children's ward, and then like me and all the parents would sit around like that scene in Jaws, all comparing scars, like, oh man, little Johnny's had this done today, oh don't, so and so's had this, and it's just like, so it was just awful. We were just feeding off this horrible energy. And the thing that kept me going was when I'd look at my phone and people were talking about jiu-jitsu or asking me how I am, and you know, it really got me through. And to have something to focus on other than this horrible thing, it was a gift. It wasn't hard to get back into. It was the thing I needed. It was the crutch to lean against. So yeah, it was that team at that time. They know who they are. The people I've spoken to them personally, but yeah, they were amazing. So
I'm sure your true friends exposed themselves during that time.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, and it was all of them. So it was everybody. There was nobody that wasn't there for me. So, and I'll do the same for them. You know, we had a really awful leg break, and these things happen in this sport. It was wrestling, of course. It's always bloody wrestling. One of our members, Wilco, broke his leg, ankle really bad, couldn't work. He's painting and decorator, couldn't work. And the team just chipped together 2 months' rent for his rehab, and he's high off his face on morphine. And the person goes in, oh, don't worry, Wilco, I've got your rent covered for 2 months. You're going to be all right. And he's crying because he's all high. And nurse is like, you okay? He's like, yeah, I've just got the best team in the world. And we'll do it for anybody. Yeah, it's
amazing.
There is something a bit different. I mean, I say this, I haven't trained at every gym in the world, but the Banbury squad, they do seem something special about them. I would say that, of course, but yeah, they're golden, all of them.
Do you have a high retention rate at Banbury?
We do, yeah, really, really high, strangely high. There's, I don't know, maybe it's the vibe, maybe it's, we lose people, of course, people come, people go, life gets in the way, things change, and then they tend to come back, and it's very rare that there's a member that leaves. I'm like, oh damn, I didn't see that coming. It happens, of course, because life gets in the way. You know, people try it, and if you don't like the sport, you don't like the sport. Like, it is what it is. The team can be as lovely as you want, but if you're not into jiu-jitsu, then why do it? But yeah, retention rate's really good. I mean, we've been going, like you say, we've been going for 18 months now, and the membership numbers are, well over. I probably shouldn't say because it's braggy, but but yeah, it's going good. It's going good.
No, it's great to hear.
Yeah,
and you've got a little Matrix theme going on, haven't you?
Yeah. So what's really sad is the quotes that I quote from the Matrix. The new kids don't know what it is. They don't know. I'm like, I might have to say, like, as part of your membership, you have to watch just the first one. Don't watch the fourth one.
That's the only one I've seen is the first one.
Oh, yeah, that second one's not too bad. Third one, all right. Got to close the story up somehow. Fourth one, let's pretend that didn't happen. Okay, that's Rocky 5. That's Jaws 3. That didn't happen.
If anyone sat there clueless,
yeah,
I suppose it's like the background behind the logo is like the Matrix numbers.
Well, yeah, it is. I can't remember because the Matrix stole it from somewhere.
Oh, okay.
What's it called? It might be Requiem from a Dream or Ghost in the Shell. It's called Digital Rain. Right. So everyone's like, and the Matrix one is different. The Matrix one is codes from a Chinese menu turned backwards and inverted, and then made green and it falls through. So that's where they actually got it from, apparently.
So random.
Yeah. Matrix could be my favorite all-time movie. It just speaks volumes to me. All the red pill and the blue, and unplugging and all that stuff. I know that'll make some people's eyes roll, but you got to think I was a young kid when that came out in 99. That was like, rah. So that's, and the good thing is, as people forget, I was gutted when Matrix 4 came out because everyone was starting to forget, and it was like, my design, that design Gav's come up with is really good. I'm like, yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I remember when you released the rash guards. I was like, that looks sick, but I can't afford the rash guard at the moment, so we're just going to leave it.
Rash guards are meant to last you for lifetime, so they're not cheap.
No, look good. I mean, I know you say you're a bit of a conspiracist. Mm-hmm. And this is just a theory that I'm going to chuck your way.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So like the simulation theory.
Yeah.
I was having this actually a conversation me and Jim had.
Okay.
And the conversation was regarding like the concept of a hive mind.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so a lot of people believe in this.
And well, we drew relation to the phone being the hive mind and how your whole life is uploaded to the internet.
Yeah.
And we were then like, us as individuals who are looking really deep into our own existence, at least for me, and Jim agreed, I can't speak for anyone else.
No.
You get to a point when you realise that you don't have a purpose in some way. And so you're almost trying to understand what your purpose is. And for me, that's how I fell into doing this, because I was trying to figure out what
Purpose is everything, isn't it?
Yeah,
Without
exactly.
purpose, you can... I think this is the big problem with multi-millionaires and actors and actresses who become like balling famous. Like, where's the purpose gone now? Like,
exactly.
I mean, like, look at Connor. Like, he was the best when he was hungry and driven, and then you get all that fame and money and proper 12 blows up, and then you're just doing it for what? Like, legacy could be enough.
Could be, yeah.
But is it?
So the theory that we sort of came up with was that the universe is just trying to understand itself. Like, we are the universe. Like, we are made up of the same things that the universe is made up of.
Yeah.
What if the universe was actually a simulation, and the simulation has, or not a simulation, but I don't know how you'd categorize it, either artificial intelligence, which has run a simulation, trying to understand itself, or whatever way. Yeah. But we were thinking that if some artificial intelligence was trying to understand itself, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah.
Well, it's created a universe with all these drastically different things, different people, plants, animals, people, and then you can go into the subspecies.
When you had this conversation?
Quite possibly. But we thought we could just be in a simulation that is just trying to understand itself, because that is the best way I could think of trying to understand yourself, is by covering any sort of variable and then taking the information from that.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. It's deep. But on that point there was a study done with group meditation.
Okay.
And they got like thousands of people to, I think it might be in Chicago, I might be wrong, to group meditate on like peace and harmony and trying to like, and the crime stats in the city went down.
Really?
Every time they did this group meditation, the crime stats went down. So maybe we are just like one big consciousness, all experiencing each other's lives. And yeah, it could be. I mean, it drives me crazy because like we've all got all these different theories on everything, and in my mind, I can't believe that people listen to mainstream news, and I'm sure there's people out there that can't believe you go, oh, you listen to this podcast of these people, you must be crazy, and it's like we're both right, we just might be opposite ends of the spectrum, I'm
not going to stand here and say that the way you think is wrong, because I'm almost 100% sure the way you got to that idea is 100% right.
Yeah, so, and that's my experience. This is what I live in. And it's not negative. This is the thing that like in a lot of let's chat groups with conspiracy theories, because obviously there's not that many of us who delve with thoughts like this, which are really good and really like blow your mind. That's few and far between. Most people just want to like eat pot noodles and drink Pepsi Max and all that stuff. Which that's your life. That's your life. None of my business. But I find it quite hard to talk. Like if I'm at a wedding or something like that, I find it quite hard to talk to people because I have to kind of like
you instantly get labelled, don't you?
Yeah, and I have to just put this filter on myself. So you're kind of like getting like diet Gav, like I'm not really, you know. And obviously you can't just talk about anything you want to. Like dudes don't want to talk about jiu-jitsu all day. I understand that, you know. But I do think that like in these chat groups, I get called Captain Hopium because I'm always like looking at the positive side. This is going to happen because this needs to happen, and then this is going to happen because this needs to happen. And I'm like, but surely having a positive outlook, regardless of what your beliefs are, is a good thing. If we are here creating our own reality, to be positive has to be a good thing. That's not why I'm positive. I'm positive because I really do think the world is going in a good place, which not many conspiracy theorists do. You're probably expecting me to be all like, oh, DARPA camps, and we're all going to get put into these things, and you know, we're going to have fucking social credit scores and all that stuff. And you know, there are things out there saying those things. If you just read those news stories, you're going to end up with that theory. But if you read all of them, if you try and look at everything, which is really hard to do because sometimes you have to wade through, you know,
so much shit.
Well, reptilians, flat Earth. You got to try and get your own stuff, and there's nothing wrong with those. There's some stories in there to have a look at too. But ultimately, to me, it looks like we're going in a really good place. Hope I'm right. Got my life savings banked on the fact that I'm right, but we'll see. We'll see.
Have you always been someone that has had an open mind to think about things like that? Or
yeah, you know what? From some of my oldest memories, I can remember like being in middle school and you were allowed to go to the library, and me always going to the unexplained section. Bigfoot, Nessie. I remember like, I'm going to be into this. I'm going to be a ufologist. I'm terrified of like UFOs and aliens because of that. I watched talking to somebody about this last night. I watched a camcorder video back in the day, of a dude under hypnosis. It's called memory regression or something. I can't remember what it's called. And they hypnotize this dude who's been abducted, and he's freaking out. And I was probably 13 when I saw this, a bit too young, and it like seared in my mind. I have this irrational fear of aliens. I'm like,
yeah,
but I kind of like it as well. And like, because of the conspiracy world, I'm now like at the point where I'm pretty sure it's interdimensional stuff. Could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying the stuff I've read. But yeah, it's so freaky. Like, there was always, me and my friends growing up, the music era, we were all like jackasses. It was when Jackass and Camp CKY was out. It was, and there was a rule like, whatever you do, we don't prank Gav like with alien stuff, because he will just punch and punch and punch until he gets out of that room. And I would freak out. Yeah, I've got this weird. I've always been the same. Really open-minded. Really, I don't like to be told what to do, and that's not like something I've learned. That's just who I am, who I was brought up to be. And I think like you just got to find your personality traits, your real ones, not the ones that you show people and pretend to be your actual ones, and then think, what kind of a job would that do like? Not do like, because you know, there's more to life than money. It's purpose. You said it yourself. You're rich if you're living in a world where you're doing your purpose, even if you're poor, financially poor. You know, it's not about money, I don't think. You need some money, of course.
Of course, yeah. And that's the one shit thing I think about our life is that you do need money in the sense to function in our society. Like I've always said I'd love to be able to go back before we had phones, before we had any of this, because then
I can remember.
I can't even remember anything like that.
Yeah, I'm 41 this year, so I can remember a time without phones. I can remember the transition. I'm like, oh damn, yeah.
I would love to go back to before phones were invented, before anything like this. I would like a primitive lifestyle, to be honest.
Yeah, to be fair, some of my happiest memories are way before that. But then I suppose everybody's their childhood memories are always
sure.
You know, like just skating and biking and stuff like that. So
I used to be quite a closed-minded person when I was younger.
Oh really?
The pivotal point for me opening my mind was probably about a year before I decided to do this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That recent?
Yeah, I was very... Touched on a point that you said, people showing like characteristics that aren't true to themselves.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, I was surrounded with sort of like looking at the nice cars, looking at the nice places, like watching TV and thinking that I'm going to be rich one day.
Yeah.
And that was the main focus.
That's the goal, being financially rich is the goal.
That was the goal, and I built my personality around that. And I didn't know that that's what I'd done at the time.
But also, it's worth noting, though, on that point, if that is what makes you happy, though, if that's your life and that's what you want and that gets you to, then more power to you. That's your thing,
There's nothing wrong with that.
But it's interesting that I rock up in a Tesla today and you're like, oh, damn, you bought a Tesla. Like, I'm not that person, but just by following my passion.
Exactly.
And luck, well, not luck, but good circumstances, good decisions, the well thought out decisions has done me into a position where, that's, I'm not rich at all, but, I'm certainly happy and full of purpose, I like to think. So yeah, just got to follow that vibe, follow the vibe, and don't care what people think. People are going to dog on you. People that you like and people that you think have got your best interests at heart will become jealous of your success, will try and get in the way of it, will say you're an embarrassment, the things you're doing, not because they're jealous, sometimes because they're jealous, but sometimes because it's a bit cringe and just cringe. Be willing to make mistakes and fall on your face. Who cares? So many people live in a prison world because they're too scared to take the chances and fall over. You will fall over. I've done stuff. I've shared clips online that are so embarrassing. And I watch back, I'm like, oh God. But it's funny, like, that's who you were then, and you learn from that and you move forward, and who cares? Share it again.
Exactly.
And if it makes you do this inside and it makes your butt pucker up, share it again. It hasn't finished
Desensitize yourself, because you're going to keep doing it.
Who cares what people think? What's it like? The way I'm talking now, I'm sure there's loads of people that are like, oh dude, you're so full of yourself. Love the sound of your own voice. Whatever, dude. Turn it off. Turn it off then. That's cool.
Turn it up. Go on, keep listening. Turn it up. Whatever.
Go out and do what you want to do. Don't worry about what I'm doing. What you want to do.
That's another big thing, is that people want to keep you on their level.
Yeah.
Because them seeing you do something that they aren't capable of at that point in time makes them feel bad.
And it's me versus me. It's you versus you. There's no one else in the room, really. I mean, you got your family. You got to do right by them. You can't go and, you got to be, in my opinion, you don't want to be, because you don't want to be a bad person. You don't want to, like, this dog eat dog world. That's a load of nonsense in my view, because those decisions that you make, those people that you hurt, they stay up here, and all you're doing is hurting your own consciousness on the inside. So I don't agree with that dog eat dog world. I do think that helping people is a really good way to help yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, you can be selfish with that, or you can do it for the nice way. But yeah, so I don't live in this world like, whatever you want, no matter what's in your way, you smash through it. No, don't do that. But find a way around it. There's always a way around it.
Sure. Get back to me opening my mind. It was weird how that came around, because, like I said to you, I felt like I was quite a closed-minded person.
I would have never said that.
That's the funny thing, because I think people that knew me back at school versus now would probably say, I can't obviously speak for them, but I would, if I look back at myself, I'd say I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
I was very authoritarian.
God,
I was very black and white, like, it's that or that.
Yes, trust the science.
Yeah.
No, even though that comment makes no sense for science, but trust the science.
But exactly, and it wasn't until I started realising why I was unhappy as a person, and the reason I was unhappy was because my only aspirations were to be rich.
Yeah.
And that is you're never satisfied with that goal.
Yeah.
It made me realise that my whole structure that I based my beliefs on had crumbled.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, how can I stay closed-minded if I've been closed-minded to myself this whole time and it's all fell beneath me?
Yeah.
And so that was when I was just like, well, why am I can't judge anything anymore. I can't.
What do I really want?
I don't really know what to base things on anymore, because it's like I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah. So the turning point for me, I've always been open-minded, but the turning point for me to get me down to the path I'm at now was 9/11. A lot of people my age, it was 9/11. So for the first 2 years after 9/11, I was like everyone else. I'm a car mechanic, and I'm in that world, and I'm like, yeah, we need to go to war. We need to do this. Kind of people getting away with this, but that usual stuff. And then I watched a documentary called Zeitgeist, and I watched Loose Change 2nd edition. And I was like, and it's not all of the stuff in there is not true. Some of it's not quite accurate, but I was like, man, and that is the turning point of my whole life. As soon as I saw those, I was like, oh, these motherfuckers have not got our best interests at heart.
What was it in there that sort of made it click for you?
Well, Loose Change 2nd edition, I think at the time was the most watched internet documentary. Just a couple of students just made a documentary going through all the evidence for the Twin Tower attacks, and it was just like, wow, like there's definitely more than we're being told. Like the commission report did not tell you the whole story and even lied about some of it. And then Zeitgeist, I think it's quite old. Even when I watched it, which would probably be like 2006. And it just goes through like the history of war, history of religion, and where they think it all has all originated from. And again, take them with a pinch of salt, but damn, if it's 2% true, we got a big problem with the way our lives are structured. And then from there, you just sort of like gradually just keep going down the rabbit hole. And you're talking about, 25 years of going down the rabbit hole. There's no going back for me now. I'm pickled. No. My brain is done. I live in a completely different world to even like the people closest to me. But I think it's a good one.
I think it's a good one because it's just it's a good thought process to have on everything because it stops people from pulling the wool over your eyes so easily. Yeah,
that, and it can be lonely sometimes because obviously you can't have a conversation with people, and some people will come at you quite aggressively. I don't know why everybody thinks that you need to believe the same thing. Like I find it really weird that like we can all have our own religion and people will respect that. Sexuality, do what you got to do, none of my business, and rightly so that people respect that. But like beliefs in like political systems and structures of Western society. Oh no, you got to believe what I believe. It's not on the BBC. Then, and I'm like,
I personally think that's because it starts to break down what they've used to build their.
That's exactly it. Yeah, their idea of what their reality is. You're saying
exactly.
I suppose in me not agreeing with whatever views that other person's got, I'm saying you're wrong, and they're like, no, you're wrong. But I'm like, well, you can be whoever you want to be. I'm not attacking you.
No, sure.
So it is, and also like you can't help what you believe is what I've come to, because I've tried to bury my head in the sand. I've tried to unplug, if you will. I've tried to take the blue pill because it's a more peaceful life. Like sometimes I think to myself, no, I don't really want to hear the Podesta recordings. I don't really want to think about underground military bases where all sorts of stuff's going on. But you can't help what you believe.
No,
so
sure.
You can read the facts both sides, which I try to do. And then I always come back to the same thing. I'm like, I don't believe these motherfuckers.
I watched a really interesting TED Talk on consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
And they ran a simulation on two types of consciousness. One type of consciousness was a consciousness that only focused on staying alive and just being successful in living and thriving.
Yep.
The second consciousness took time to try and understand what the consciousness was.
Oh, okay.
And in every simulation they ran, the second consciousness that tried to understand what it was ended up eradicating itself.
Oh, really?
It spent too much time trying to figure out what it was instead of just living and surviving.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which again, draws parallels to me with people that don't want to hear any of it and just want to believe the first thing they hear because ignorance is bliss, first of all.
It is, yeah. But bliss is nice. Let's not forget. Like, there's
nothing wrong with that.
That's not necessarily an insult. Ignorance is bliss.
100%.
Some of the people I meet and I think, I'm so envious. I'm so envious of your state of mind, because sometimes it's quite can be quite overwhelming, can't it?
Well, that's what it made me sort of second guess what I was doing, because I was always second guessing what I did.
Yeah.
Which were a lot of like my bad times came from, like overanalyzing what I did myself, and it was that, and then coincide with it was actually the first time I did acid, to be fair.
I was just about to ask if you had much experience with
I've had psychedelic experiences, and that actually sort of came full circle to how I used to be to myself when I was younger. So have you done it before yourself?
No. I'm believe it or not, I'm not a big drug guy.
Okay.
I back to the PTSD. The thing that cured my PTSD was microdosing what's it called? Psychoactive mushrooms. There's a better word for it, but yeah. So microdosing mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. Yeah. So microdosing those. In my opinion, I wasn't going to go into this, but in my opinion, 97% fixed.
Really,
fixed the issues I have. Yeah.
I've been heavily debating that for a while for my own personal issues I have.
I'm not a doctor,
because I've only ever heard positive things.
Well, my thing is I'll never tell anybody to do anything ever.
Sure.
I'm not a doctor. I don't want any, I don't want to carry your burden or anything like that. I'll only tell you my story.
Yeah, exactly.
And my story is I went from being almost to the point where I couldn't operate to now I feel loads better. Like I wouldn't have been able to talk about the stuff.
Sure.
I wouldn't have been able to stage 3 PTSD it's no joke, man.
Sure.
It's like anybody that's suffering with that, damn, it's a real tough.
Well, I'm glad that
darkness to
you found the solution for yourself, because if you didn't have that open mind, you would never probably even thought about that.
This dude in the gym, a dude in the gym said to me, like, dude, you're suffering, but if you thought about trying this, loads of studies, read me the studies, sent me some links. I'm like, I'll try anything, man. Let's do it.
No, great. The experience I had that came full circle was when you do things like psychedelics, you can get caught in a loop.
Yeah.
Where you feel like the same thing is happening over and over again. And I caught myself in a loop of understanding everything. So the best way I can describe it was that I was seeing my thoughts, and the way I saw my thoughts were like these spirals that were like a never-ending spiral.
Yeah.
I can't say if it felt like it was like a spiral of paper with words on it. It's just like black and white.
Yeah.
And traveling through this spiral of thoughts was, this is because of this, and this is because of this, and this is because of this. And I felt like I understood everything. Everything made perfect sense to me. And at the end of each spiral, the thing that made me come out of it was, but just live in the moment.
Yeah.
And I probably did that about over 100 times.
Yeah.
And it was just this elation of realizing everything, but then you get to a point where like, well, this is getting a bit much now.
Yeah.
And then the thought of live in the moment stopped it all.
Yeah.
And afterwards I was thinking, fucking hell, this is how I've lived my life this whole time, not living in the moment.
Constantly focused. I could be better at this. I'm constantly always thinking, what's next? What are we moving on next? Where's next?
Or I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done this. And since that point in time, I have really focused on living in the moment and have not visited those places I have before as seriously. For me, I'm not, like you said, I'm not telling anyone to go do something. That was my experience. One thing that I would give as advice going into anything like that is do it for the right reason.
Yeah.
Any sort of historical texts I've seen where like there's some shamanic experiences.
Shamanic,
or
that's the word.
Shamanic processes. They've always said, you don't abuse this.
Yeah.
It needs to be done in the right setting.
Yeah.
Right? And every time I go into doing something like that, I make sure that I'm in a good place mentally in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going in wanting to learn something.
Yeah.
Instead of some of my mates around me are going, because you can get fucked up. Like,
just get wasted.
Like for me, that's not it.
Well, that's what's always kept me away. I've been, around this culture, touring in bands and doing this for a long time, but there was always a bit of I don't know if I'm in the right place for this. So I won't do it, Whereas, maybe now, maybe lately, the microdosing definitely gave me a new respect.
Oh, that's brilliant.
For it, yeah. And it, completely harmless. You don't feel anything. You don't, it was crazy. And it can't, it's just a placebo effect. Listen, there's no placebo effect with that kind of stuff. It was night and day. Yeah. So I do have a newfound respect for psychoactive drugs, but not saying I'm going to go home and visit another planet or anything. But
no, sure. No, brilliant. Well, I appreciate your time today, Gavin.
You're welcome, man.
We've done an hour and 16.
No way. That was an hour and 16? Damn. Before I go, can I plug?
Of course.
So I have a competition August 7th called the Zion Invitational. It's a 8-man bracket across all belts. Obviously, black belts are few and far between for these things, but if we get some more, I've got a couple. So it's invite only. So get in touch. If you just go to our Instagram page or our website, you'll see a poster. Drop me a message. We'll pick the list. I've got a few spots left, not too many to be honest, but I've got a few spots left. It'll be aired live, so it'll be more sort of hopefully subscription viewers. I will sell probably 150 tickets, so if you're lucky enough to get a ticket and be there on the day. The main event for that though, I'm sure people of Southampton will know this as well, but it's Team BST versus Team Renegade quintet style jiu-jitsu match. Is going to be savage. As a fan, I can't wait to watch it. I'm tempted to hire a professional referee so I can just sit back and watch. I don't know if I want to ref this one. So Zion, August 7th, and then there is some grumblings. I'll let this drop exclusive for you, but it's not official yet, but we might be doing a 10th Planet Great Britain sort of camp. So all of the coaches who run all of the gyms all over Great Britain getting together at Banbury over 2 days, and we'll all just do 2 days worth of seminars, and we'll hang out and we'll watch some movies and do some stuff, watch some jiu-jitsu. So that's not official.
That's savage.
So I didn't tell you that.
Is that a UK first if that takes place?
That'll be a UK first, yeah. So I got the green light from the the governor the other day. So we'll see how it goes. But it's in the works. So.
In the pipelines, brilliant. No, thank you for that little snippet.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And make sure to get in touch regarding the comp you got going on.
Yeah,
it won't be disappointing.
That's it. Yeah, come up, do some shots if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to. We'll chat about that after. But no, awesome. Thank you for your time today, Gavin.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure. We'll have more conspiracy chats. I'd like to dive in one day about your band experiences as well.
Yeah, well, I think I did well not to go too far down the rabbit hole. I was kind of like, let's not go too mad.
No, it's all right. Well, have a good day, guys.